As we watch the Republican Party continue to eat itself over Donald Trump, a new book details just how perilous it was for Democrats to oust him at the ballot box. Battle for the Soul chronicles 4 years of reaction and ultimately mobilization by Presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the 2020 candidates who lined up to take Trump down. Joining me now is Edward Isaac Dovere, staff writer for The Atlantic and author of Battle for the Soul, Inside the Democrats' Campaign to Defeat Trump. Isaac, I want to clarify for our audience that while this book is obviously about Donald Trump and the threat he posed as president, it's really about what the Democrats were going through as they campaigned and strategized to get rid of him. Do I have that right in your view?
You do, and thanks for having me, Rev. I think the important thing here, yes, this is not another Trump book. Trump is obviously, his name is on the cover, but it was because that's the context for what was going on for Democrats. But it is focused on the Democrats. Trump barely shows up in the book. He is there as a presence in the back of what's going on, but it starts on election night 2016 with never before reported stories of Barack Obama and Joe Biden watching Trump win. It picks up with what happened with some of the Democratic leaders, things happening behind the scenes, as well as some of the activism, things like the Women's March and then the fight to save Obamacare that were part of this, and goes all the way through the primary campaigns. Stories, look, I was covering this race day to day for my job at The Atlantic. There were things that came up in the reporting for this book that were surprising and shocking to me. And I hope that they will be to everybody.
Let me push you right there, because it also shares some of President Barack Obama's less than polite assessment of Donald Trump. Some of the language I won't repeat here, but it also takes a critical view of President Obama, contending that, at least in his first term, he essentially used the Democratic Party to get reelected, but was not an optimal party leader, evidenced by all the losses Democrats suffered on his watch. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, look, Barack Obama, as you know well, is not a party guy. He's always seen himself as apart from that game in the way that he sees it. Some people who work closely with him referred to the way that he'd approached the Democratic Party to me as benign neglect. And if you look at the numbers, and a lot of this became much more clear to people when Trump won, and it forced them to look at what had happened to the Democratic Party. It wasn't as simple as Trump winning on election night, shock or surprise. This was a long time coming. And there are about 1,000 seats in state legislatures that were held by Democrats when Obama came in as president that were then held by Republicans by the time that he left. There are a lot of factors that went into that, and I traced them in the book. But one big one is that Obama was not really that invested in terms of his time, attention, even his fundraising, in building up the Democratic Party and the Democratic bench.
Now, I have to ask you about the Senate GOP's vote against the January 6th commission this week. Having studied the Trump presidency, as you have for 4 years now, I wonder if you see this as a culmination, a rock-bottom moment for the GOP, or a sign of things to come. Your thoughts, Isaac?
There are a lot of moments that have been said to be rock bottom moments. I think that what we're seeing here, and this book carries all the way through. I was reporting it through February. We had a very rushed process for a book, but one of the last chapters of the book is about people who were in the Capitol when the riot happened. Cory Booker obviously was covering him when he was running for president, and he's in the Capitol and the Senate floor looking around thinking he might have to fight people to keep the rioters from getting the older senators. That's what was going on here, and that there is just a desire to brush that away and say no big deal. It really is crazy. And I don't think that there is going to be as much of an appetite in the country for brushing it away as some of the people who voted against this commission are counting on. Elizabeth Warren says to me from a couple weeks after the riot, sitting there, she says, I don't think that we have started to grapple with what happened here. And I think that that's true. This was a great wound on our country, on democracy, and we still have a lot of recovery to do from it. And you don't get to recovery before you deal with what the actual problem was.
Now, coming off that commission vote, have the Democrats reached the point where they have no choice but to unite behind eliminating the filibuster?
There are a lot of reasons why Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are pushing back on doing it, but it does seem like the Republicans are pushing and pushing on this. I think we'll see over the next couple months as some of these critical votes come up around infrastructure, but also around things like the voting rights stuff, the John Lewis Act, that may push this to the fore in a way that it hasn't been yet. And, a lot of that is all because of the energy that was there for electing Democrats last year, and then the frustration. I tracked the energy and what went into it and all the things that led to this essentially very narrow victory, obviously a 50-50 Senate. But now there is an expectation from a lot of these Democratic voters, people who were energized and whose stories I do track in this book, of feeling like they're invested in the process. And you can't say to them so easily, okay, well, we can't really do anything anymore. And that's even though we won. I think that's what we're going to see the pressure build around in the next couple of months.
Well, it's a very interesting book. A lot of things I didn't know behind the scenes, and you covered some of the behind the scenes things that I was present at. I can say they were accurate. Edward Isaac Dovere, thank you for your time. And his new book is Battle for the Soul, Inside the Democrats' Campaign to Defeat Trump. It is out now. Up next, my final thoughts. Stay with us.
Ideas exist.